Yesterday in 1 Peter chapter 2 verses 4 and 5, we heard 1 Peter referring to Jesus as a living stone and about being built into a spiritual house. And then in verses 6 and 7 and 8, he goes on to quote passages from the Hebrew Bible, what many of us call the Old Testament, that support his argument about who Jesus is with this imagery. Verses 6 through 8 say, "For it stands in Scripture, see, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious." There's that word again. "And whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. To you then who believe, he is precious. But for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the very head of the corner, and a stone that makes them stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do." So here we have Peter quoting from both Isaiah 28, from Psalm 118, from Isaiah chapter 8, and looking back at their scriptures. And this is what the early Christians did. In light of what they experienced with Jesus in his life, his teaching, his death, his resurrection, and ascension, they then went back and looked at the scriptures and they saw them in a very different way. And these passages from Isaiah and the Psalms were ones that they seized on and said, see, look, this was actually part of God's plan all along. And we hear this repetition of the word precious, of how God is precious in God's sight, a cornerstone, chosen and precious. He is precious to those who believe. And for some of us, who are movie people, we hear in that Gollum from the Lord of the Rings talking about the One Ring, and he calls it as precious. And he pursues it with everything in his whole life. His total focus is on that precious ring that he wants for himself, that ring of power. And Peter presents Jesus as precious repeatedly, but not something for evil or manipulative purposes. Jesus is precious and valuable in God's sight and hopefully in our sight, because he is a cornerstone, a trustworthy foundation that we can build all of our lives on. And the phrase that speaks to me that I just want to highlight to you today is that phrase at the end of verse 6, "Whoever believes in him will not be put to shame." That we can trust Jesus to be with us, we can trust his word, that he is who he says he is, and following Jesus and trying to live as he teaches, trusting him in life and even in death. There is no better foundation on which you and I can build our lives. I hope you're trusting Jesus and that he's precious to you. And those of you who like old Christian hymns may even think of the song, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me home." That's our song and our prayer today and throughout our life.